guys, today I'm actually going to go for a ride and I'm going to talk about a few things, mostly rider ability, bike ability, tire ability, the tail of the Dragon. The reason I'm going to bring all this stuff up is because I've had some comments on my videos of the tail of the Dragon on YouTube and on other sites where it's been shared and stuff, and going both ways from all different kinds of people mad about it, people happy about it, I mean, whatever. So I'm going to talk about it because there's been people that are mad because, oh, you're riding too fast, and there's people that are like, ah, you're actually too slow. I mean, it's a big ordeal. So I want to talk about abilities, riding abilities, etc., etc. So let's get on the bike, and I'm going to be in some twisties while I'm doing this, and so you can actually enjoy the ride while I'm talking about this stuff.
Alright guys, I turned the camera on because I don't know how long it's going to take me to talk about this stuff. Oh, let's get off these bumps here. It'll end right up by this sign. Okay, so you saw my intro. First, let's talk about the tail of the Dragon. Now, it's probably the most famous road around the world in the United States. Now, there's probably more famous roads in other countries, but motorcycle road. Let me get that correct. But as far as the most well-known famous road in the United States for motorcycles, the tail of the Dragon is it. Now, I'm not saying it's the best road. I mean, I'm going to have people all over going, oh, we got better roads where I ride. Well, that's probably true because we probably have better roads here too. What I'm saying is it's the most famous, most well-known. So what made it famous? About 30 years ago, 40 years ago, somewhere in there, this is the story I've heard anyway from the owners of Deals Gap. A couple motorcyclists, sport bike motorcyclists from Europe, rode on the road. Yeah, rode on the road. Anyway, and went and told the owner of Deals Gap, do you guys have any idea what you have here? It's like the perfect sport bike road. Now, this is back when sport bikes were first pretty much getting produced. I mean, there was super type bikes like the KZ1000 and stuff that were made before this, but really until the early to mid 80s, super bikes weren't really a thing. The VFR, the FZR back then? I'm not a big Yamaha guy, but I mean, they kind of started it all. And it's just blossomed from there, right? Now you've got all sorts of different kinds of super bikes. You got Hyper Nakeds, which is what I'm on here. You've got your Super Sports, which is what my Repsol is, the RSV4 I had, stuff like that. So anyway, what made it famous with these guys? Well, and what was the draw? The technicality, the curves, it was the road, not the scenery. Now, the Smoky Mountains, where it's located, has beautiful motorcycling roads and car roads if you want to take a car, but you can see more on motorcycle and enjoy it more. Beautiful scenery all over the place. One of the most beautiful places in the country, just about, at least in the top 10. Is the Tail of the Dragon one of those roads? No. There's really no scenery on that road at all. Just cliff on one side, trees on the other. There is one scenic overlook that's on one end that's kind of pretty, that overlooks the dam, but that's really it. I mean, there's no scenery, so it's not a scenery road. Now, any of you that have watched my Tail of the Dragon videos, the one where I actually run the Dragon at a pretty good pace, and then the other one where I show the two close calls by themselves that I kind of had on there. Let's talk about them. So, yes, I was running at a very good pace. When did I do it? It was a Wednesday or Thursday night And it was later. I mean, it was getting towards sundown, 6, 7, 8 o'clock at night. Not a lot of traffic left on the road. Now, there was a couple things there, and that's why we had those couple close calls. Now, they weren't really that close, but if you weren't a good experienced rider, they could have been really close or even catastrophes. So, that's what that road is known for. Now that it's gotten so popular, everybody wants to go ride it, which is fine. Anybody can ride it that they want. It's a public highway, right? But you need to go there with the notion that you're going to see all types of riders there. All types. You're going to have your superbike guys, you're going to have your sport nakeds, you're going to have your hyper motards, you're going to have motards, you're going to have your mini bikes, you're going to have your cruisers, you're going to have your custom bikes, because everybody wants their picture taken on the Dragon. And the busiest time is the weekends. If you want to actually ride the Dragon at a spirited pace, don't go on the weekends. If you want to ride slow and just enjoy it and get your picture taken and think that you'll be able to see scenery, go on the weekends. And then obviously early in the morning or late at night is a lot less traffic also. So there are pull-offs on the Dragon for people to use. I know it's not a law. People don't have to use them if they don't want to. But if you're not going to use them and somebody's riding faster than you, when they get to a spot where they can see double yellow or not, they're more than likely going to pass you. Is it illegal for them to pass? Yeah. But they're going to do it. And I mean, it's just one of the things that's known about that road. So, I want to talk about a couple comments, especially the one that was just made on my Tail of the Dragon video the other day. And it basically went something like this. Why don't these guys go to the racetrack? If they want to kill themselves, they should do it at a racetrack where they're not going to kill anyone else. Okay, that's his feelings. I want to put this out there. I've been riding for 30 plus years on the street, longer than that on dirt bikes. I have never been down on the street, never even dropped a street bike. What do I attribute this to? Now, I'm not saying that I never will. I mean, accidents happen, it could happen. Somebody could hit me, I could hit some gravel, ice, whatever. I mean, oil on the road, antifreeze. There's all sorts of things that can make you have an accident other than just skill. A lot of those things you can watch for, and I'll talk about how you can save it even if you do hit those things. So anyway, let's talk about ability. So I preach and preach and preach this to people that I've trained, which I have trained some people how to ride motorcycle, people that I just talk to, just any riders in particular. I never ride above 70 to 75% of my abilities. Now, your abilities change by the bike you ride, the tires you have. I mean, all these things can change your abilities some. So, your abilities on a Harley aren't going to be near as good as your abilities on a CBR of any size, or a Ninja or whatever. And your brakes aren't as good on the bigger, heavier bikes. The sport bikes are technically a lot safer bike than the big cruisers are. The problem is a lot of people that are on sport bikes are young and dumb, so they don't have the skill set that they need, and they don't have the brains to use properly, right? So, my video of me riding on the Dragon, I was riding about 70 to 75% of my abilities. So the two close calls that I had, the one I wouldn't, where the car was pulling out of the pull-off when I came around the curve, I probably wouldn't have had to pull all the way over the double yellow into the other lane, but it was clear there was nothing coming. I had plenty of room before the next curve. I wanted to make sure that car didn't pull all the way out, and I ended up hitting him. So I swerved over into the other lane. As soon as I cleared the car, I swerved back, and as I got to the curve, another bike came around the curve. So technically you could almost say it was 2 close calls, but I was long back in my lane way before that guy even was in my vision, or he saw me. I mean, I guarantee he never even saw me. So that's the one spot. And the other one was a trike was riding super slow. He went by the pull-off when he should have pulled off, but he didn't. So my friend passed him on a curve where he could see up ahead far enough to do it. And then I got up behind him and I waited for the next curve where I could see. And I don't know if he did it on purpose or if he was just trying to ride a little harder because he was embarrassed he got passed. I don't know. I didn't talk to him. But when I went to pass him, he came way over in the left lane. It looked like he was trying to block me from passing him, which is probably more dangerous and stupid than if he would have just let me pass. But that's the thing. People don't like to get passed. So, you know, whether he did it on purpose or by accident, it could have been a close call if I wouldn't have been paying attention and was riding over my abilities. So riding 70 to 75% of your ability gives you the ability to avoid those situations and make calls on what you need to do. If you're riding 100, 110%, you have no leeway whatsoever to make a decision. You are in it to win it. So basically, you're sitting there putting yourself in a bad spot, right? And like I said in my chicken strip video, don't override your abilities. You're more dangerous than anyone out there if you're overriding your abilities. So, let's get back to that comment. I kind of wrote a comment back, but it's hard to write and try to explain online. Hard to argue online because people don't actually listen, they don't actually read, you know, they don't do any of this stuff, right? So, but I did comment back and I basically said, because he said, it makes me not ever want to go ride that road. Well, I commented and said, go out there and ride. I told him how the Dragon wasn't a scenic route, but there's tons of other roads out there that are super scenic to ride. If you want to ride the Dragon to say you did, do it. You know, but if you want to go slow, go during the day or on the weekends when everyone else is going slow and ride it slow. If you want to take a chance on getting passed by a fast bike, go early in the morning or later in the evening on a weeknight. And that's when the fast bikes are going to be out. I told him ride your own ride, you know, don't worry about others. You know, I mean, you do have to worry about them, like if they're coming across the line in front of you or something like that, but you know, just pay attention. So, I guess what I'm saying is, you know, don't let anything deter you from riding a road. Now, if you would have watched my video and you saw me crossing the yellow lines and almost having head-ons and stuff constantly, yeah, that would deter a lot of people. But there isn't a lot of that going on out there. Does it go on? Yeah, and it's usually cars that are doing it. There are some bikes, but the police out there have cracked down on that. So the bikes really do try to stay in their own lanes. Every once in a while you'll see them mess up and go across. Right, George, if you're watching this? George is a friend of mine, and he was not riding like I was riding it, and he still lost his concentration or whatever on a curve. It got him by surprise, because there's some that are really sharp, and he went over the double yellow. You know, it happens. It's an accident, right? And he wasn't speeding or anything. He was actually probably doing the suggested speed of the curve. So, they, you know, don't worry, go ride. But if you're going there for the scenery, don't worry about going to the Dragon, right? So let's talk more about ability. So I mentioned a little bit on different abilities of different bikes, right? So my 70 to 75% of my ability might be 150% of someone else's ability on the same bike. And my 70 to 75% of my ability might only be 20% to another person on the same bike. Everybody's abilities are different. It's going to all depend on what kind of riding they've done, how long they've ridden, classes they've taken. Just there's all sorts of things that'll change abilities, right? And that's just riders. I'm not talking bikes yet. I'm just talking riders. There's all different abilities. So don't right away assume that somebody that's riding way faster than you can ride is riding dangerously, because they're probably riding within that 70% of their ability, and they have more than enough time to react to anything that happens. You know, animal runs out in front of you, oil on the road, gravel on the road around a curve, someone coming across the yellow line, anything like that gives you time to react and get away from it. So that's human ability, right? Now let's talk about bike ability. Now abilities of bikes can change on the same bike themselves. We'll use this bike for example, a CB1000R. Everybody's riding a CB1000R, right? So we're already done talking about riders' abilities. Talk about the bike's ability. Now everybody's on the same CBR with the same tires, same suspension, everything. It's all going to be about rider, right? Now, you buy a CB that a guy's put different tires on it. Now he might have put the stickiest tire you can buy on it. That's going to give that bike more ability, right? Or he might have bought a hard tire because he wants his tires to last a long time because he's riding straight down the highway most of the time. Now he's lost some of the bike's ability, right? The bike isn't going to be able to perform up to the standards of a sticky tire bike. Now suspension's the same way. Just setting a bike up for you, your sag and your weight and everything, is going to make the bike perform way better for you than it is for somebody that's 50 pounds lighter than you or 50 pounds heavier than you. So the suspension's going to change the bike's ability, right? All that kind of stuff. Lightening the bike up, you know. You can do things to this bike that'll make it lose 20, 30 pounds. That's going to change its ability, you know. The brakes, you can put better brakes on them. That's going to change the ability. You've got rider modes on this bike. You know, those changes the ability of the bike if you change those. The shifter you can have a quick shifter auto blipper put on it. That's going to change ability because it takes skill away from the rider and gives it to the bike. So the rider has one less thing to worry about. So now that we've talked about the same bike and how things can change just that bike, let's talk about different bikes. Let's say you're riding, we'll just use a stock Harley Softail for example. First off, you're riding a stock Harley Softail. They sit pretty low. Well, most Harleys sit about the same height unless there's some sort of custom thing. So most of them, probably leaning about like I am here, you're scraping the running boards or the pegs, right? Now I'm not going fast. I'm going the same speed as this car ahead of me. And we're not going over the speed limit. But a big cruiser can't even go the speed limit through the curb because they're going to scrape their running boards or pegs. It's going to panic the rider or not. You never know. That's rider ability again. But it's going to change stuff, right? So this Harley has to slow down for these curves. Now that actually gets dangerous in its own way. Oh shoot, I think I wanted to turn there. In fact, I know I did. So that changes and makes things dangerous in its own way, right? So you've got guys coming up to a curve that's a suggested 30 mile an hour curve, right? So you've got a suggested 30 mile an hour curve and you're doing, 30, 35 going into the curve, and all of a sudden this Harley ahead of you grenades his brakes because he can't go into that curve that fast. He can only do 25. You got to grenade your brakes, and what's going to happen? If you don't hit him, which is a possibility if you're not paying attention, but if you don't hit him, you can upset the suspension on your bike, and you can crash yourself, right? So there's different ways of these things making it more dangerous or safer. Now, like right here, you know, this road's kind of dangerous in the way that that car was actually over in my lane, and I was almost over in his lane. We could have had a head-on, but we were going slow enough. We missed each other, right? So that's one way that a big cruiser's, you know, different, and your abilities are different. Most sport bike guys can override a cruiser's ability. So now you got to take that into your mind and think about it. Okay, I'm overriding the bike's ability because the bike can only do so much. No matter how good a rider you are, it can only do so much too. Now, if you're riding a custom lowered Softail or Street Glide or whatever, that's going to get even more dangerous because you're going to have to go even slower around the curves. So, and it makes it dangerous to even ride them because of how slow you have to go. Because some bikes, once you get so slow, they get hard to handle. You need to be doing a certain speed going around a corner for the bike to even corner right and be stable. So that's, you know, that's a whole nother ability for a bike, you know, is the bike's ability. You can outride a bike. A lot of people say, oh, you'll never outride the bike or you'll never outride the tire. Yeah, you can. I mean, if you're on Marc Marquez's or Valentino Rossi's race bikes, no. Any of us that ride on the street will never be able to outride one of those bikes, the abilities of those bikes. But if you're on a custom chopper that sits 2 inches off the ground, yeah, you're going to be able to override the bike's ability. So, and I'm just exploring here. I've never been on these roads, so this is kind of cool. So you got to take that into consideration when you're riding with different bikes on different kinds of roads. You know, most of your bikes, when you see them, if they've got 17-inch wheels and they've got pretty high foot pegs, whether they're a hyper naked or just a naked bike or a motard or even a dual sport or an ADV bike, they can get after it on a curb because they've got high enough pegs that they can lean way over and they can really go. And that upsets a lot of guys on these big cruisers because they can't. And they think that you're riding way fast. When in all actuality, you're not. You're riding way faster than they are, but you're not necessarily riding way faster than your abilities or your bike's abilities or the road. So that's kind of my thoughts on that. The Tail of the Dragon, we'll go back to that for a second. It's a sport bike road. If you want to truly go on that road and enjoy that road, you need to be riding a sport tourer, an ADV, a motard, a super sport, or just a sport bike. I mean, that's what you're a naked bike, hyper naked, that's what you're going to enjoy that road on the most. You're on a big, heavy cruiser with bags, lowered, hard tires to get miles out of them, stuff like that. It's not a road for one of those. It really isn't. I mean, the scenery on it is about like what we're looking at right here, if you're lucky. And then when there's leaves on the trees, then it's just all green. You can't see anything, right? So, I don't know where I'm at, actually. But anyway, so that's, you know, that's my thoughts on that. If you have anything to add or want to talk about it, go ahead and do it in the comments. Like and subscribe. I'm going to try and talk about all this kind of stuff. I really want to talk about things that people comment about, you know. I had a guy want me to do a video on the dark side, putting car tires on your motorcycle to get more miles out of them. I told him, I said, I've never done that, so my opinion on it really doesn't matter. But if I ever run into somebody that's doing it, I'll ask them. I'll see what they think. So I'm going to try and do all sorts of stuff like that. Like I said, we're going to have some track days and stuff, everything like that too. Let's get back to that comment that we talked about to begin with. Why don't these guys go to the track? Well, let's talk about that. A track day is expensive, right? I mean, I don't know where most people ride or whatever, but the tracks around here, you're paying a minimum of $80 just to get on the track, period. That's not counting all your gear you need, your good tires, the equipment you need, stuff like that. So, things you have to go on track, you have to have good tires. They won't even let you on the track unless you've got good tires. You have to have all your lights taped up, stuff like that, or taken off, one of the two. You have to have a race suit. You have to have a back protector. You have to have a DOT Snell helmet within 5 years old. You have to have good armor gloves. You have to have basically race style boots. Now this stuff, if you've ever priced any of this stuff out, is expensive. You're not just going to go buy all this stuff for $100. I mean, you're talking over $1,000 easy for that kind of stuff. So, you've got all that. That's not even counting if you want to actually try to go fast on the track and you want to put better tires on, or you want to, there's all sorts of things that you can do. So that's why a lot of guys don't go to the track. Now, there's guys that go to the track and still want to ride the Dragon Spirited, because there is no track like that. The Dragon is constant curve, and none of the curves are exactly the same. There's a few that are really close where they'll lull you almost, and they're the ones that end up biting you because all of a sudden you'll get a sharp one and it nails your ass. So that's a reason why they want to ride that road. And what I did notice about the Dragon, when we were actually there, the camaraderie came out and you didn't see the hate. Online, you see all the posts and you see people hating on each other. Sport bike riders hating on the Harley guys hating on the sport bike guys, ADV guys just staying quiet because that's what they do. You get out there and you see it a little bit, that some guys will walk by your back tire and see you have no chicken strips, and they'll shake their head because they think you're riding too fast, right? Other guys look at your tire and smile when they see you don't have chicken strips because they think, yeah, he's a rider. And like I said before, you can't judge a rider on their chicken strips. There's a guy that can be going twice as fast and still have a little bit of chicken strip left that's leaning over and not on his bike, like I said before, compared to a rider that doesn't lean or counter leans is going to wear out his chicken strip way before he even gets to the potential. So, but you see that, but you never see anybody pissed. You don't see, everybody just has a good time. Now, I don't know, I don't want to drag this on too long. So, pretty much that's it for those comments on those videos. There were those couple halfway close calls, but they really weren't that close, So, anyway, watch my videos, see what you think about what I had to say about them. Tell me what you think about what I just talked about. And the main thing is, for everybody out there, I don't care if you're a total beginner or if you've been riding 40, 50 years. If you're nervous riding your bike, you're pushing it too hard. Back off a little bit. Doesn't matter if the other guys are doing twice as fast as you. Slow down. Ego is what will crash you. If there's guys that are riding twice as fast as you, don't worry about them. They're better than you. It doesn't matter. There's always somebody better, right? There's always somebody stronger. There's always somebody bigger. There's always somebody heavier. There's always somebody lighter. There's always somebody. So, just remember that. Ride your ride. Ride within 70% of your ability on the street. If you want to ride 100%, go to the track. That's the only place where you should go 100% because the track is 100% safe. As far as no oil on the road, no gravel on the road, more than likely not going to be animals or beer cans rolling across the road, stuff like that. So go to the track, ride 100%. Ride on the street, ride 70-75%. And your 70-75% will get better and better the more you ride. One more thing before I go. If you haven't really ever ridden twisties, the Dragon and all the roads out in the Smoky Mountains, or even around here where I ride, whatever, are going to be very, very intimidating. You have cliffs on one side, straight down, cliffs on the other side going up, trees, sharp curves, elevation changes, I mean, all sorts of stuff. Be prepared. Be prepared for that. It's a whole different ballgame than if all you've done is ridden on highways or ridden to the bar on the weekends with your buddies or whatever. It's a whole different deal. So anyway, I'm going to leave the video on if you guys want to watch for a little while, because this road's pretty fun once we get past a couple straightaways here. And if you guys want to watch, great. If you don't want to, that's fine. Like and subscribe. Hit the like button. Hit the dislike button if you don't like it. Whatever. But do something. Show some loving to my page. Adopt, don't shop. We'll talk to you later. Enjoy. And there's that view starting to turn green. We'll catch you guys on the flip side later.